Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Quinn. I'm a stay-at-home mom who runs a small business called CatCakeCrochet. This is not the video that I planned on putting out this week. I thought I was going to have a market vlog for the show that I was supposed to have on July 4th. If you've been following along on my journey, I started this channel to document the process of me starting to do markets. Up until this point, I've done 6 markets, and I was supposed to have my 7th market on the 4th of July. That market was going to take place in Biggs, California, which is a pretty small farming type community, but unfortunately, due to a wildfire, that event was canceled. So if you want to hear about evacuating and those clips and stuff, if this isn't interesting to you and you just want to skip to the crochet, I totally understand. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I'm going to put a timestamp of when I start talking about crochet again right here. Go ahead and skip to that time. I had taken a few clips of working on some different patterns leading up to the market, but in all honesty, my family was having a rough 2 weeks before the market. Our daughter was sick off and on, which is always hard when you have a child who's sick. She had a high fever and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. She didn't have any other symptoms besides her fever. And it was just very I want to cuddle mommy and only be with mommy the entire time. On top of my daughter being sick, we literally lost our car keys for 5 days. The car that my daughter and I have at the house when my husband's at work, I came home one day, I sat down the car keys and they vanished. They disappeared. They were gone. I was trapped inside the house with a sick toddler for 5 days with no way of leaving the house. That was causing me a lot of anxiety, and a lot of the clips I filmed were me complaining about it, which makes sense because it's stressful when you're stuck at home with a sick baby. But then on top of my daughter being sick and not having car keys, our coffee machine broke. We had an Instapot brand Keurig coffee machine, and it just stopped working. Water was leaking out of the side of the machine and made a huge mess, and I didn't have coffee. So all the clips I filmed, I was very upset. I was very complaining. I looked like I was dead. I was having so much anxiety because my daughter was sick and I was stuck at home, and on top of that, I was super tired from not having any coffee. And then my luck started to change on the day that my daughter started to feel better. I found our car keys, which I'm so glad I found the keys because we were literally about to call the locksmith. I found them on the ground, actually slightly underneath this bed inside a toy. So my daughter must have hid them inside of there and tried to push the toy under the bed. I don't really know. I'm in my daughter's nursery right now, by the way. I have the car keys and my daughter's feeling better. And my best friend Victoria from the channel Comfort Loops, I talk about her all the time, she mailed us a coffee maker. How nice is that? I don't know if she was tired of me complaining that I didn't have coffee. I know that's not it. She just did it because she's a nice person. What really puts my problems into perspective is that last Tuesday, 2 days before my market, I happened to be outside with my dad and my daughter, and we noticed that there was some smoke coming up from the sky, which is always a bad sign, and especially when you live in California and it's the middle of the summer. It seemed like it was far away, so I wasn't too worried about it. Dad left my house and he drove on top of the Orville Dam, which you get a beautiful view of the valley from the top of the dam, and he sent a picture of the smoke billowing up. If the Orville Dam and the Orville Lake are vaguely familiar to you, kind of jogging your memory, a few years ago, our lake reached such high levels that the dam started overflowing and chunks of the spillway in the dam started falling apart. They thought that the dam was going to burst and flood. Our entire town had to evacuate, and it was very scary. One of the scariest situations I've ever been in my entire life. But luckily that didn't happen, and our town didn't get destroyed. And we have this app on our phones. It's called Watch Duty. I'm sure that you can get it in other states, and it's an amazing app to alert you about wildfires and let you know which zones have lost power, which zones are in evacuation warnings, and which zones are in evacuation orders. So I check Watch Duty, and the fire is steadily growing, but it's not near us. It is near people that we know, and I'm texting my husband and other people inside of our town, but I'm not too worried about it. At this time, I'm communicating with my friends inside of the group chat, and I happen to just be sending them clips, which is kind of what we do throughout the day. So I am sending them fire updates, but it's not too drastic to me. So I do have some clips that I filmed, but I filmed them for my friends, not for YouTube. Some of them are up and down, which I'm sorry about. I didn't expect to be using some of this footage inside this video. But if you're curious, I would be curious if this happened to somebody else. So I'm just gonna share what I have. So everything just kind of started happening really fast. I sent my friends the picture of the smoke at 1 p.m. At 2 p.m. I went to my back porch and I filmed this little clip of how much bigger the cloud had gotten and how it started getting really smoky at my house. You can't see the smoke in the air inside the clip that I filmed, but I noticed I could smell it, and I didn't want my daughter breathing that in. I was trying to keep her inside the house. Really smoky out here. Like, it smells like there's a barbecue, but I know it's the fire. It's 244 acres now. And then only 15 minutes later, after I filmed the first clip, I filmed the second clip of how much bigger that cloud had gotten. And that's when I started thinking, like, okay, I'm gonna pack a bag just in case. It got really dark really fast. Like, that's like black. Yeah, sweetie. It's 111. The cloud got so dark so fast. So in that clip, I noticed that the smoke starts getting bigger. It looks like it's getting closer to us. And then 10 minutes later, my power shuts off. Of course, it's hot where we live because we live in California, but our area is in like an unusual heat wave. And all over the news, it kept saying like record-breaking temperature, record-breaking temperature. In fact, earlier last week, Apple News were reporting the weather wrong, and there was like this crazy glitch that was reporting all the weather was like 5 degrees higher than it's supposed to be. So when we were all freaking out, we were all like, how is it supposed to be that hot? That's insane. Then on the news, they said that it was just a glitch and the weather wasn't going to be that hot. But when they fixed it, it was literally only like 5 degrees less than that. So it's super, super hot over here, and it's super, super dry. You can see from my backyard, the oak forest behind my house, the ground is just completely yellow, like just dead grass. And that's how it is like all throughout our town, and that's where the fire was. The fire was in these portions of these like oak forests all through my town. I filmed that second clip to my friends at 2:31, and at 2:40 our power goes out, and at 2:41 I get the text message saying that we are under evacuation order. Now the sky starts getting really dark because the smoke is getting closer and closer. This is the sunroof inside of our kitchen. I was standing inside our kitchen and I was like, why is it getting so dark in here? Of course, the power was out in my house, so I was like trying to find flashlights and everything because I had all the curtains closed because it was so hot that day. And I start noticing it's like getting darker inside the house because the smoke was getting so big. It was literally blocking the sun. I was home alone with my 2-year-old daughter, and I was trying to talk to her very calmly and not panic because I didn't want her to get scared. So I was telling her that we were going to go on a trip to her grandma's house, who she calls Mama. I was saying, we're going to go to Mama's house, let's pack a bag. And I give her a little tote bag, and I told her to go around the house and pack things that she wanted to take to Mama's house. So while my daughter was just getting random things like lotion and jam and putting it inside the bag, I was like trying to think of whatever supplies that we needed for I don't know how many days. And then another 10 minutes goes by and I film this next clip from my back porch again. Yeah, that was Auntie Emmy, baby. It's okay. Auntie Emmy's gone too. We're just waiting for Dada. This smoke right here looks closer than the other smoke. It's kind of weird. I don't know if you can see it on camera. Just waiting for JoJo. I should probably grab some more. Oh no, I'm starting to see ash. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm starting to see ash fall from the sky. I think it's a good sign that it doesn't smell as smoky as it did before. So it looks worse and scary now. Sweetie, it's okay, baby. Mommy's right here, darling. The helicopters are really close now. My neighbor left already. He left his hoses on, facing the woods. That's nice of him. What is Daddy doing? I don't know, sweetie. Daddy's not here yet. We're just waiting for him, I guess. My sister said the fire is on the spillway of the dam. We live really close to the dam. There's a lot of ash falling from the sky. Jojo said he's trying to get around the barricades to get home, but I don't know where he is. My neighbor said there's like a ton of car accidents in town. You're itchy. It's because it's so hot outside, baby. It's very hot. Daughter and I were waiting for my husband to get home. He was like rushing home from the other town that's like 45 minutes away. He wanted to be here with us so we can like pack up and leave as a family. And he couldn't make it home because they had all of the routes to a little mountain that we live on were all barricaded, and he couldn't make it home. So eventually I was like, we have to get in the car and leave, just me, my daughter, and our 2 dogs. And I realized really quickly that I had waited too long, because by the time that we got to the main road, we were stuck in such a long line of traffic leaving that it literally took us an hour to get off of the little hill thing that we live on. Thankfully, my daughter fell asleep, and I was just sitting there in traffic thinking I'm so grateful and thankful that we're okay, that my husband was okay, and hoping that anybody near the fire was gonna be okay as well. The fire ended up getting to almost 4,000 acres. And at the time I'm recording this, it's still not fully contained yet, but it goes to show how quickly everything can just change. Everything can change so fast, and you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared, and you have to be ready to leave your house at a moment's notice if something like this is happening. I really shouldn't have waited for my husband at all. I probably just should have grabbed what I could and got in the car and left the second that the order came, and we wouldn't have been stuck in traffic. The fire ended up getting within a mile of my house on 2 sides. But thank goodness, within a couple days, they had extinguished the fire inside of the area where I live, and the wind shifted and the fire just started burning more of oak forest on the opposite side of the mountain. The evacuation order was downgraded to just a warning. My husband and I decided that we were going to come home and assess the house. We wanted to make sure it wasn't too smoky inside before we brought our daughter home. We left our daughter overnight with my sister, which is only the second time in her entire life that she's ever spent the night without me. So it definitely gave me a lot of anxiety, especially combined with the events of the days leading up to it. But it was very important for us to go home and just make sure that it was a safe environment for her to come home to. And unfortunately, one of the first things that we noticed when we got home was that some of my plants were very crispy. And luckily for us, when the power came back on, our AC kicked on, which helped circulate the air. We have an air filter inside of it, but we also have a standalone air purifier, and that also kicked on as well, which I'm so thankful for, because that really helped get the smoke out of the air. It still smelled smoky inside the house. It wasn't that like choking your throat, like burning your eyes kind of smoke. And also my yarn didn't smell like smoke, which I know is like very frivolous. I know it's like super silly to be worried about something like that, but it's something that crossed my mind, because yarn and soft materials can hold on to scents, and it was something I was worried about. And I know I shouldn't be worried about it, but I was. I'm sorry. But none of my yarn smell like smoke, and none of the yarn inside my yarn cabinet smell like smoke. That was a blessing. But we did unfortunately have to throw away all of the food inside of our refrigerator and our freezer. Everything had thawed and then refrozen when the power came back on, and we could tell that the things thawed, because this is gonna be kind of gross, but my daughter had this ice cream cone inside the freezer that had ice cream above the cone, and when the freezer turned off, all the ice cream melted and then just froze to the side of the freezer when the power came back on. And then inside of our refrigerator, we had strawberries and broccoli that had mold on it already. And I don't know if that food would have not spoiled so fast, but we have skylights inside of my kitchen. The sun is just like blaring right into the kitchen in the afternoon hours. And it was incredibly, incredibly hot. So I'm in my garage right now. That's why there's spooky spider webs over there. But I want to show you that this is our deep freeze. It's full of meat, which I don't eat. I wanted to show this. So we can tell that the meat is still good inside of here, because we had this bag of ice, and this portion of ice is like jutting out and like sticking up. And then there's still sections in here that are like ice cubes. You can kind of see it through the bag. If the freezer had thawed, all its ice would have melted and became liquid, which would have seeped through the grid. And then when it refroze, the bag of ice would have just been a bag of water that refroze. So it wouldn't be shaped like ice anymore. So that's how we know like all this food is still good. So that did cost us a couple $100, but at least we were okay. And I know one of my plants died, and that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, that's okay too. It made me realize like we need to do better fire prevention inside of our yard. I would hate to attribute to the fire growing because we don't take care of our property, you know? It's hard to do things like that when you have a small child, but it's something that we need to prioritize because of the area that we live in, and because it's just so insanely hot outside. And wherever you are that watching this, I hope that your area is not inside of this crazy heat wave. And if you are, I'm really, really sorry. You have You have my sympathy. I know how hard it is. I really want to genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank everybody who sent positive thoughts while this was happening. It was something scary to go through. So moving on, I don't know how to segue from that incredibly heartbreaking and very real topic of fire safety and fire danger into something as like cozy and comforting and wholesome as crocheting. So I'm just going to get right into it. So these are some of the things that I was going to bring to that show that was canceled. I did reach out to the coordinator of the Big's 4th of July show, and I let them know that I was evacuated and I wasn't going to be able to make it. They told me that they just ended up canceling the show. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, they never let me know that I was going to get a refund. It was only $25, but I still feel like the right thing to do is like to refund all the vendors. If I do get my $25 back, or if the show gets rescheduled, I'll let you know. Here's one of the things that I wanted to bring to the show, just because this pattern is just so summertime to me. I brought this pattern to the Goat Festival that I recently did in Paradise, California, and everybody loved it. Everybody was talking about it. This is the corn pattern that my friend Victoria from Comfort Loops came out with. This is a no-sew market-friendly corn pattern. I made these two in Bernat blanket with a size 6 hook. This pattern works up really fast and I think it's super cute. After I made that pattern, I made something silly with it. I made up my own mod for the corn pattern to make a corn dog, and I think it's really funny and silly. This was cute, and of course I had to do something silly with it. Another pattern that is silly and cute is this is Gordy the Goblin. This is created by my friend Rachel from the Faded Wildflower here on YouTube. And this is her pattern for Gordy the Goblin. I wanted to use size 7 yarn, which I don't typically work with. And the green, the body, and this pink color is Sweet Snuggles. This is the yarn that was just on clearance like a few weeks ago at Michael's for $5. And then the body portion and the hat portion is Lion Brand Cover Story, which I don't remember if it says on the skein that it is a size 7, but it's definitely like humongous. I really like working with Cover Story. It's super, super soft and like just a little bit fuzzy. Sweet Snuggles, I'm honestly not a fan of. I don't like the kind of yarns that shed a lot, and honestly, the Cover Story is a little bit softer than the Sweet Snuggles, but I do like how enormous this little goblin worked up. This is like the size of a baby. I wish I knew somebody that had like a new baby that I could hold this up to. So the pattern comes with this little hat that he's wearing and a little satchel, so you can take off his hat. This hat is so big and it totally fits my daughter. She won't let me put it on her, but it fits her and it makes me very mad. I want her to wear it. It like almost fits me. You could make yourself a Gordy and then also just make yourself a matching hat like this, if you for some reason think that this is a look. He's pretty cute. And I made his eyes part of a flower set that I'll be releasing soon. I was looking for new patterns to make for the 4th of July show. I'm sure I was doing exactly what you're doing now, watching people's YouTube videos, looking for some new and interesting patterns. And I found these two channels that I had never seen before, and I actually found some interesting patterns from both of them. The first channel is called Hooked by Katelyn. I'm gonna leave a link to the video that I watched inside the description if you wanna check her out. And inside her video, she showed this really cute pig pattern. This is by Meg Makes Crochet on Etsy. This pattern is $3.50. I'm really glad that I watched Hooked by Katelyn's video, because just looking at like the cover photo on the pattern, this doesn't look like something I would gravitate toward, which kind of sounds rude and I'm sorry. I prefer the item to work up in like this size. It just looks really small inside the photo. And I used Bernat blanket for these and a size 6 hook, and they worked up a really nice size. And I think this pattern took me around 45 minutes to make, and I think I could sell something around this size for maybe $15. For this pig, I used Bernat Baby, which some of the Bernat Baby works up like a lot smaller for me. I think just because it's like so much softer than the regular Bernat. But I think this pattern is super cute, and there's also a version where you add little mud splashes to the pig, which is super, super cute. Hooked by Katelyn also shot off this little kitty pattern. This is the Crochet with Bay Itty Bitty Kitty, and this pattern is like the exact tiny version of the famous loaf cat pattern that you see a lot of people making right now, including me. Let me grab mine. So if you have the loaf cat pattern by Annie Caraway Art, the Crochet with Bay Itty Bitty Kitty pattern is like the exact version of it. It is the exact same pattern except for miniature. So I made these two black kitties. Of course I had to give them butts. Made two brown kitties. These are all different colors of Bernat, by the way. That's mostly what I've been using now. Here's their little butts in case you want to see that. And then I haven't gotten to make the small version of it yet, but I made a pink loaf cat, and I made this one as a custom order, and the customer actually said they don't need it until the end of July. So I was planning on taking this to my 4th of July market and seeing if anybody was going to buy it there. And then I was just going to remake it for the customer when it got like closer to when they wanted the pattern. I think the version with the color changes is super, super cute, especially like the little feet. It just works up so much faster when you're not doing the color changes. And then this next pattern, I believe, was also inside of that same video by Hooked by Katelyn. This is Finley the Shark by the Knit Knots on Etsy. I think this took me around 40 minutes to make. And look how cute this little shark pattern is. So I made it all in different shades of brunette. Some of them have stuffing sticking out because my daughter was playing with like skewers and stabbing the sharks. Maybe if I hold them all by their tails, you can get a good view of them. I don't know if this view is helpful, but this pattern's really cute. I feel like there's so many sea life patterns right now, which leads me into another pattern that I also saw on YouTube. I saw this video pop up on my home page by JazzyJ Crochet, and it was titled 20 absurd crochet patterns or something like that. And of course I had to click on that. I'm so glad I did because I saw this pattern in there. She showed this pattern by the website Spin Yarn Crochet, and it is for this blob fish. And I absolutely love it. This is probably one of my favorite patterns now. It's so silly. I use different colors of brunette, of course, and for this pattern, and size 6 hook. This pattern's not stuffed, so you get just these absolutely just gorgeous blob fish, just deflated blob fish. And also you can open up the blob fish and just use it as like a little trinket bowl. A weird thing about it though is that you can see down to the tail. And also if you put in safety eyes like I did, you have the backs of the safety eyes sticking out. I think for these two, if I do take them to a market, I'm probably going to cut out like a little disc of pink felt cover up where the safety eye is, just because I don't like that back like sticking out like that. So how cute is this? Do you love it? Do you love their creepy human noses? Look at them. I feel like for the right people, this pattern would be a huge hit at markets. So thank you JazzyJ Crochet for sharing that pattern so I was able to see it. And one last very cute ocean themed pattern that I worked on is actually for my friend Victoria from Comfort Loops again. This is her adorable no-sew pufferfish. And check this guy out, isn't he cute? I love his little mouth, he's so cute. She has a tester call out on her page right now for this pufferfish, and I think he's so stinking cute. I really, really love him. I think she did a wonderful job on the pattern. I know it's hard to take my word for it because she is my friend, but trust me, this pattern is really, really nice. And I'm so excited to see what else she comes out with in the future. If you watched it this far, thank you so much for catching up with me. It's definitely been like a chaotic 2 weeks into my life, and crochet got put on the back burner. But I have some really exciting things coming up, and I'm really looking forward to sharing those with you. If you watched the section about the fire evacuation, thank you so much for watching that. Thank you so much. And if you're curious about how California is using goats to prevent wildfires, I actually snuck a little educational video into this market prep. So feel free to check out this one if you haven't seen it already. And I'll see you guys really soon. Bye.